Now, today I just wanted to be talking about comparison. Now, sorry, I just realized that my microphone's all over here, webcam's all over there. Just sorry, this is the first live stream since podcast convention, and this is the first. Well, what I mean by that is the actual episode. Now, we did have a interview actually scheduled for today. Whenever I reached out to the guest to make sure we were still good, they said that they would have to hop on another call at 5:40 their time, which would have given us 30-ish minutes to record an hour episode. Doesn't work that way. So we had to reschedule for sometime, I think, next year. But the thing is, what I want to talk about today is comparison. So if you find yourself neurodivergent, well, welcome to my world. If you find yourself not believing in yourself a whole lot, welcome to my world. If you find yourself just having a hard time a lot of the time, welcome to my world. And more, maybe I should actually say, welcome to your world, right? Because we all have struggles, we all have pains, we all have things in us that bother us. We all have things that are something we feel that others don't struggle with. So we feel also uniquely troubled, if you will. And, ooh, hang on, I want to turn the sidechain off. There we go. There. Now it's just a solid. It's not going to change. So, no, that's the thing. We all have a unique part to play in our own story. We have a unique part to play in everyone else's story. But the thing is that we always seek to compare. Why is that? Well, it's for many, many reasons. But if you find yourself unable to stop comparing and pulling yourself into a pit of despair, then maybe you need to listen in, because sometimes figuring out why we do something is the start of the solution of how we get out of it. So, let's see, what exactly is comparison? So, comparison is really just that. It's comparing two or more things for similarities and differences. That's it. So, why do we put all this extra effort into it? Why is it that we sit there and say, I am not enough, or this is not worthy of whatever? And why is it that whenever I sit there and I compare myself to others, I immediately find myself 10 times worse than whenever I started? It's probably because I'm looking at things the wrong way. Now, there is no stopping comparison. I'm sorry to say that. If you came here looking for a way to stop comparing, it's not going to happen. What I can help you with, though, is figuring out how to actually make that comparison work for you and not against you. So, again, what exactly is comparison? It's just figuring out the similarities and differences between two or more things. Now, whenever we take this into account, we usually like to compare ourselves to everyone else around us. We do this for many reasons. A lot of it is because we're trying to figure out the social norms, we're trying to figure out the social cues, we're trying to figure out how to read the room, if you will. We're almost constantly comparing. We're almost constantly saying, I, or they, or we. It's never just something that's like being in the moment, being present. Sometimes that is a way to stop comparing, is just to be in the present and accept everything for as it is. But what can you do whenever you can't stop that? Whenever you can't be in the present, what do you do with comparison? How do you make it work for you? First, we need to change the mindset. Sometimes we look to others and we see their success and we immediately compare that success to our own success, but we don't even compare it to our success. Instead, what we tend to do is we tend to sit there and say, look at what they have accomplished. Look at where they are and how they are doing right now in this moment. And let me take that and compare it to all the extra BS, all the extra bullshit that I've been through, and I don't even have a smidgen of that success. So why is that? That right there is the kind of comparison that a lot of us find ourselves in. We say, they have this, they've done this, I have done this too for so long, And yet I'm nowhere close to that. That's part of the thing. Remember, we are all unique. Their story is not your story. Do you want to live someone else's life? If you say yes, that includes all of the things that they don't tell anyone else. How many things do you not tell anyone else? Are you willing to take that same battle on for battles you don't know anything about? Probably not. So, maybe you're not cut out for the same success that they are. Maybe you are. Maybe that's the thing, is that everyone's journey is going to look a little bit different. Just because they struggled with something doesn't mean you'll struggle with the same thing. Just because you're struggling with something doesn't mean you'll struggle with that same thing later on. The thing is that we like to compare ourselves to ourselves and even belittle ourselves and say, I could have done better. I should have done better. I did know better, but I still did it anyways. Well, remember, we are comparing to find out what is working for us. We are figuring out how everyone else reacts to everything. We're not sitting there, just waiting for the world to happen. And if we are, maybe that's where we're going wrong. Now, why do we seem to crave this comparison that just seems to drag us into pits of hells? So, again, we're looking for self-evaluations. We're looking for ways to improve ourselves. We're looking for ways to not hurt ourselves in the future. We're looking for ways to not hurt others in the future. We're looking for ways to better the relationships that we have in our lives. The problem is, we always seem to look at the wrong sources for the same results. Now, one of the other things that we can do with comparison is motivation and enhancement. Doesn't sound right, does it? Well, a lot of people will do this by looking at those that have less than. It sucks. It is not cool. I don't like to do that. People that sit there and look at others that have less than and feel good about themselves usually do it in a way that isn't saying, how can I help this person? Instead, they say, oh, woe is them, but not woe is me. All is well in my world. I can continue on, enjoy, because that is not my woes. Like, okay, you can do that. No harm, no foul. Just don't sit there and rub it in someone else's face that I don't have the same problems that you do. So, why don't you have the same success that I do? Can't do that, but so many people do. Now, evolution is another thing that comparison brings to mind. And this, again, is just becoming who we are. We don't become who we are accidentally, or if we do, maybe that's why we feel so lost. Maybe if we were to be more intentional with our actions, with our choices, things would be a little bit different. And man, I really got to change up the music on this. Sorry. I'm just like, whoa, oh, that flute just killed it for a second here. Let's scooch it on over. There we go. Where was I? So that's what I'm talking about, is that the evolution of comparison is really sitting there and trying to figure out what is working in the world, what is and is not. Because if it's working for the world, maybe it'll work for me. Maybe it won't. Now, again, we calibrate ourselves on this. We calibrate ourselves on this comparison chart because if it's doing well for others, then it must do well for me. That's what learning and education is all about, right? Trials and error. So why is it that life, circumstances, don't seem to pan out the way that it does for everyone else? Because there's so many variables going on to every situation, it's impossible to say that it's going to pan out the same way for even two people. Now, you can have the same 2 artists, 3 artists, 4, 10, 100, 50,000 artists if you want. Give them the same prompt, you'll come up with that many different pieces of work right there, because no one is going to have the same exact thing. Now, if that ever does happen, bam, okay, maybe someone finally divided by 0 successfully. Who knows? But that's not the point. What we're trying to actually do is also ask, can we avoid comparison? No, we can't. I'm saying we cannot because without the comparison, we wouldn't know what is even good or bad. Now, I'm not saying that we need to stop comparing. I'm not saying that we need to figure out how to compare less. What I'm saying is that we need to figure out how to compare for the betterment of ourselves and for others. Now, a lot of us can sit there and we can say that I have a shower, I have clean water, I have this, and I have this. Something of a first world amenity, right? There we go. Not first class. I'm not first class. Oh gosh, no, sorry. Don't even get that into your mind. We can all sit there and probably compare ourselves to the first class. Don't get me wrong. Now we can do that, but the point is we shouldn't because most of the first class got born with silver spoons in their mouths. We did not. So instead, what we have to look for is we can sit there and we can say, I have community. I may have gone through a lot of addictions and traumas, but the thing is that I came out on the other side. What I can say is that it made me resilient. I didn't want to be resilient, but I am. I didn't want to have tough skin, but I grew it. I didn't want to go through these things, but I did. Now, what I can say is that those same things might be a virtue in the future, but to gain them, I first had to go through the trials and tribulations. Now, someone that has more than and has not been through the same trials could be hit with something that I'm used to or something that you're used to, and they could struggle with it, and they would have their world fall apart because they don't have that experience, because to them it was deemed less than or less worthy, and they just didn't give it any time of day. Well, you perfected it. You created the method that got you out of your pit of hell, and you're thriving, and they can't even see or imagine an end to their desperation. So, which one would you rather have? Would you rather be caught in a pit of hell that you don't know how to get out of? Or would you say, I'll help you out of there? Because I'm not going to say you're less than, because I was there too. Now, not all of us can say that. Not all of us will say that kind of thing whenever we find ourselves on the other side of things, because we can sit there and compare how they treated us and how so on and so forth. It can be a never ending cycle, but that's the thing. The comparison can also stop the comparisons whenever we compare the right things for the right reasons. And most of it just boils down to we're human and we're all living life. I think that that is beautiful in its own right. Now, we do have a lot of issues going on in this world, don't get me wrong. But the things that we need to do is start caring for each other a little bit more. We need to stop comparing. If we compare, we need to do it and say, what are our similarities, not what are our differences? Can we sit there and can we actually unite? Can we pull together and say, I am human and so are you? I see you. Your pain is valid. My pain is valid. Our experiences unite us, even though they could ultimately tear us apart in the end too. Which one do we want to have? I'm all for unity. I know that it's not easy. It's unbearable sometimes, just because I wasn't taught how to do certain things. I wasn't experienced in some areas while other people are. And I compare those things and I say, I am not worthy of that same social interaction. I'm not worthy of having those kind of connections, but I am. And that's why I need to stop comparing myself to others. So if you can relate to that, and if you need help, just if you need some kind of community, we have a Discord. So you can find us at Retrieving Sanity Clubhouse. You can find the Discord link in the description. And we also go live on Friday, Saturday, maybe Sunday nights on TikTok at 10:45 Central PM. So we try to just have a judgment-free zone, let people come and share their woes, whatever ails them, and we just want you to feel better. So if you can relate to this, go on over to YouTube, subscribe, because we got tons of awesome content, tons of awesome guests, and we're just going to keep this going. We also have a new podcast coming out soon. No details yet. I can't spoil it because it's going to be really, really good. So, with that being said, we're going to end this here. Thank you for listening to Retrieving Sanity, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. With that being said, much love. Schlan.